Okay.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay, so. Yeah, so last season, we actually booked over 300 parking reservations for Gator fans. This year, we're actually expanding into, okay, this is the one exception. Yeah, you have a question.
Oh, so pretty like Airbnb for parking.
Yes, exactly. Airbnb. That, thank you. Yes, it is Airbnb for parking. So this season, we're expanding this season parking and we're expected to 10x our revenue, 10x our growth across Gainesville. So hopefully, if I come back next year, more hands are gonna be raised when I ask you guys for the perch. But anyways, based on my experience with perch, I just wanted to share with you guys some lessons that I've taken from it and things that I wish I knew at the beginning of my journey. So with that said, here's my version of broken mouse. Starting a business for dummies. So step one, identify a problem, not just any problem, a problem that actually exists. And little known, but this is the most important part of entrepreneurship, the most important step in starting a company, right? Actually, most startups will die at this stage or even before this stage because they have an idea and it doesn't solve the problem, right? So nobody's going to use it. So most startups actually die at the stage, before they're even conceived, before they're even developed. And so as a computer science major, right, I hear two main things. I'm sure you guys hear them too. One is like family member, like, can you fix my printer, right? It's like, yeah, grandma, I can fix your printer, but like not because I'm a computer science major. But anyways, the second thing is like a friend that comes to you and they're like, hey, I have this genius billion-dollar app idea. It's going to change the global economy, the whole entire world. You have to build it and you get 10% of the company. And you ask them what the idea is. And it's like dog food delivery app or like social media for cats or something like that, right? Which, by the way, if you thought perch sounded familiar, this is a real thing. Perch, social media for cats, someone built this. And my point is, I can't see the problem that this is solving, right? It's cool, it's quirky, it's fun, it's unique. But if the apocalypse came, right? I guess that's a bad example, but like no one's going to use this thing, right? Like what's the point, right? So instead of doing something like this, I would suggest, thinking of your life, thinking of what you're annoyed with, think of your gripes and your focus area, think of what you're best acquainted with, what you're most knowledgeable about, and create a niche out of that, like become competitive in that way. Focus on something that you know the most about because you're competitive in that aspect. So for us at Perch, this was the problem, right? Traffic on game days. It bothered us, it affected us, and we thought we had a unique advantage as UF students to solve this problem. So, the wrong keyboard. Now that you have your problem, right? Build an MVP. So, unless you're Microsoft or unless you're Apple, entrepreneurship is not building an app that has all the bells and whistles, right? And you launch it to millions of users and it's this massive success, right? That's not entrepreneurship, especially as a student. Sure, it sounds awesome. And you can spend months or years of your life building this perfect application that you have in your head. But ultimately, if you build it, you launch it, and you haven't proven that it's something that people want to use, no one's going to use it, right? You're building a house for nobody to live in, is what I like to say. So as you can see from this beautiful Venn diagram, on the left here, we have minimum, and on the right is viable. And right in the middle is where your MVP lies, your minimum viable product. So on the left is minimum. So this is a broken product, an unfinished product. It doesn't solve any problems. No one wants to use it. It's terrible. It sucks. And on the right is viable. So this is the final product that you envision in your head that you want to launch in business. Your MVP is right in the middle. So you want to solve only the customer core problem and just that. So it doesn't have to be technical. So for example, with Perch, this was our MVP. No app, no website, no nothing. It was a flyer. We knocked on doors across the state, all around the stadium. We put their driveways on a map, and we printed this gigantic, obnoxious sign from Target Copy, and we sat in the street for hours on end and we passed flyers out to cars. And this actually ended up being pretty successful. And that was the point where we realized we might have something here. So the key with an MVP is basically spending the smallest amount of time and littlest amount of money possible to get the largest insight about your customers and your product idea. So step 3, market your product and listen to your users. So marketing, very, 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 very important, right? No one's going to use your product, even if it's this beautiful, amazing product that solves all of the world's problems. No one's going to use it. No one knows about it, right? That's why marketing comes in. It's very, very important. And once you're at this point also, and you have users, you should be listening to everything they say, even these guys, the people who are really angry with you and they wish you were never born because you made a product that like cost them like 15 seconds in their day. But regardless, These people have the most value to provide to you, right? Listen to every word they say. Sometimes they're just mean, but try to get to the root of what they're saying and understand like what pain point are you actually making worse rather than making better. And just another note on marketing, right? So chances are as students and as first-time business starters, founders, you don't have thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to spend and dump into advertising, marketing, stuff like that, right? So actually at first we had $0. So sometimes you need to get a little bit creative. Here are a couple things that we did. We went to the same target copy. We printed out all these different decals. We hand cut them. We spray painted these signs that we got off Craigslist for like $5. We spent hours and hours of our lives assembling these, dropping them off on different corners of the university and all this. We put them out during game day. And we forgot to account for one thing, which is Mother Nature. So it poured the first game day, and these were our signs the day after. So that leads me to another key point, right? Not everything you try is going to work, right? But you need to be persistent. So another genius idea that we had is fake parking tickets. Definitely illegal. Don't do this one. So we printed like 400 of these each game day. And on one side, you can see it's bright orange parking ticket, but on the other side, it says this isn't a parking ticket, but it could be reserve your spot in advance next game day. And then I have our website on it. So we would go across the stadium, across all of Gainesville. I had like three of my buddies help me out. And we would put them on every single car that we could find. So it looked like this. We got some angry emails. We got some angry calls for sure. Luckily, the cops didn't see us. But, you know, all publicity is good publicity. And we actually got a decent amount of reservations from this. They thought the people who weren't upset with it, the people who were like, this is so smart. Once they found out they weren't actually getting charged for a parking ticket. So another thing. So the point there is you just got to get creative with your marketing, like get the word out about your product, especially if you have $0. This is like an example of guerrilla marketing, if you guys have heard of that. So another thing is it's perfectly okay to fail. Like, don't be afraid of failure. 99.9% of people who start their first business fail, right? Don't be afraid of it. Embrace failure with open arms, fail fast, learn fast. Me personally, speaking from experience, I would rather 100% of the time work with a founder who has failed 20 times than a founder who has never tried at all. So that's the point there. So moving on, that's my 3-step. If you follow those, you're going to be a billionaire. Trust me. How can you start, right? How can I start? Well, it's simple. Start. Just do it. You know what Nike says, right? I actually started in this class. We're going to talk a little bit about web development. So if you guys have seen this, it's so funny. I see some of you like, oh, I know this. The more you know about this than first, which is like so ironic. But this was our, if you guys know Eugene Lee and Andrew Benton, I'm sure you guys know them. They're two awesome TAs for this class. I built this project with them for our data structures final project. I don't have time for a demo, but the link is up there at the top, pathmaster.rocks. I think that was like only free domain that we could find. But it's essentially a pathfinding visualizer for chess pieces, which as far as I know, like has never been done before. And I'll be honest, I got carried through this project. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Eugene and Andrew like completely carried me through this. I had never touched web development. Sorry, Mon, I didn't really pay attention in class when it came to pathfinding. I really didn't. But the point is, like, we learned this, we struggled through this, and after this, I was like, this is so cool. Like, you can build something. You could create value out of thin air, right? Like, it was so cool. I mean, like this adrenaline rush. And also, this is a good point to mention. Like, I had this wave of like imposter syndrome, right? I'm sure a lot of people have felt it. Like, you look around at all these people who are like so much better than me. Like, oh, I'm gonna learn this stuff. We'll start. So after that, I kind of went on like this tour of just building things that I found interesting. So I have these light bulbs at my house, and they're like they hook up to your phone, so you like change the color from your phone. And I thought it would be cool if like I was watching a movie and I had two of these bulbs on either side of the screen, and I could like watch a movie and it would like sync to the colors of the screen. So I ended up in less than a day, I wrote an Electron app that would basically record my screen, take a picture of a frame in the video every half second, calculate the prominent color from that image, and then cast it to the light bulbs in their format. And so we got a viewing party here of Kung Fu Panda 3. So this was pretty cool. You know, it's just that idea of, I have this idea and there's nothing in the way of stopping me from building it, right? No one's gonna pay money for this, but maybe they would. Maybe if we go through that framework, they would, but just a cool idea. This next one, this is a funny one. I like telling this story. So last summer, I interned at DraftKings. You guys, I'm sure a lot of you know what DraftKings is. And the guy, okay, so every day at DraftKings, at 4 o'clock sharp, we would have happy hour, okay? And my friend who sat next to me, at the desk next to me, his name was Chad. And every single day, Chad and I would put this timer up on the TV screen by our desk, and it was like a countdown to happy hour. And like, yeah, don't do that. But we had this timer up, and it was DraftKings, so we had like a football themed timer. And one day, Chad woke up and he was like, "Hey, like, what if we had this timer, right? Like, that had a football player at one end of the screen, and like he ran to the other end of the screen. And like by the time he hit the end of the screen, like the timer ended. It's like, oh my god, like you're a genius, right?" So I was like, okay, so let's build it. And so it's time to go. Oh, wait. I forgot to change the time for happy hour. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this is time to go. And so we built it in like a couple hours while we should have been working. And we got kind of carried away with it. So we added like these like themes, like time to bike. We had like time to swim. And my favorite part, like we added a soundtrack. We have like Runaway on there. We have like Running Up That Hill. This is my favorite one. It's Eye of the Tiger. But anyways, you get the point, right? Just a little project that turned into something that actually a lot of people started using across DraftKings, like just as a joke. So there's that. I like that. That's a fun one. Don't tell my boss about that one, please. And of course, you all know Educator too. So I do the front end for Educator, which, by the way, if anyone's looking to contribute next fall or summer or whatever, just hit me up or I'm on and we can figure out the stuff on that. But yeah, so my point is, I forgot to replace this with ChatGPT, but yeah, just start, right? Like just start. There's nothing more rewarding than building a product. If you're into entrepreneurship and this like excites you, building a product and like seeing it go from something that's just an idea in your head to something that actually brings value to people's lives, something that people are willing to pay for, something that people will share feedback on. And this applies to everything, right? Like if you're not particularly into front end, like you're into back end, just do back end. Like just do back end. If you're into fishing, just go fish, dude. Like, just start. That's the biggest piece of advice. And the one thing I want to leave you with is this. You don't learn to build by thinking about building. Ideas in your head, just say ideas in your head. You learn to build by actually building and actually seeking that out and trying to find things that you want to learn and learning them. There's so much information and technology nowadays that's free and accessible to everyone at our fingertips, right? It's free for everyone. So like, there's no excuses. Just learn how to build. 95% of what I've learned is outside of school. So you really got to be devoted to it. Finally, some resources. I think I'm running low on time, but I use Twitter every day for like design inspiration, tech Twitter. They share a lot of stuff. You keep up with the scene. Like it was on ChatGPT like the first day it came out. A lot of creators share stuff on there. Product Hunt is a place where the founders share their ideas, get feedback from communities. A lot of cool ideas there. Hacker News, Y Combinator, YC. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to know about YC. Paul Graham is a legend. If you aren't familiar, it's an accelerator incubator program that hosts startups and gives them funding for no equity. And a bunch of companies you use every day have been a part of Y Combinator: Airbnb, Coinbase, Stripe, Instacart, OpenSea. There's tons more, GitLab, you name it. I'm sure they had some affiliation with YC. And YouTube for everything. Period. YouTube's the best invention in all of mankind. And the bottom left, I have some Gainesville specific entrepreneurship resources. And on the right, if you don't check out any of these, definitely check out, hopefully both, but definitely the bottom one. The top one is Startup School. So it's a free online resource for students and hopeful founders, hosted by founders of huge companies that went through Y Combinator and that whole program. And then on the bottom is my personal favorite video about entrepreneurship that I've ever watched. It's like an hour long. It's a tech talk in a co-working space in Bali from this guy named Peter Levels. Makes millions of dollars a year just building stuff without funding. So that's that. If you want to talk to me, here's my Slack, LinkedIn, email, website, stuff like that. So yeah, that's that. You guys have questions?
All right, we'll open it up for questions. Yeah, Evan, go ahead.
Did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or were you like, oh, there's
Yes.
a working on?
Oh, like in terms of first? So the question, I don't know if the people online heard, but it's, did I know I wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always had this curiosity about me where like, if I see something, I want to learn how it works. For a lot of people, I feel like everyone is thinking that way too. But with Perch, I'll be honest, yeah, we saw the problem. We knew the problem, but we also had this like desire to like, oh, we want to start a company, we want to be entrepreneurs. So it was a little bit of both, like combining together, which is, you know, a great situation to have. But yeah, I definitely like, I came out of the womb an entrepreneur, man.
Other questions?
Yeah.
What languages and frameworks did you start with? What do you recommend?
Okay, so yeah, the question was, what languages and frameworks do I start with, and what do I recommend now? Well, obviously it depends on like what your interests are. If you're back end, you're not going to be using like React, right? But I personally started with like Pathmaster was React, so I started with React, TypeScript, Tailwind, and I'd recommend learning React, TypeScript, and Tailwind, just because like I know them, I like them. You can build pretty much anything you want. On the backend side, there's really awesome tools like Firebase, which is Google owns. Superbase is a YC company actually. It's like a backend on the front end, so you can manage all your data and do everything from the front end. And AI tools are like all the rage right now. Like ChatGPT, $20 a month for premium is the best $20 a month I've probably ever spent in my life. Yeah, those resources are invaluable. You can learn anything just like that. Yeah, but the most important thing, tools, you know, you should be tool agnostic, right? You should want to learn.
Other questions?
How did you learn UI UX?
I mean, like YouTube, I learned a lot of stuff from there, but for the most part, I think I like trained my mind to like use applications and be like, oh, this is like really frustrating how this doesn't work. When I did this, it would be better if they did this. Yeah. Or like, you know, I really like this animation, or I really like this user flow, or whatever it might be. You know, train your mind to identify those sort of things, because exposure is the best learning you can get to that kind of stuff. Because you put yourself in the perspective of the user in user experience. You know, don't guess what people want. Think about what you want as that user. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for identifying problems to solve?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like think of things in your life that you know the most about. If you're like really into gardening, you know a lot about plants, gardening, and that sort of stuff. And so that like that's your niche, right? But it makes it competitive. Think about a problem with gardening, and no one can compete with you, like except for other gardeners, right? But, do that. I mean, sometimes you know some people like if you're best to solve a problem at an industry that you're already like an expert, right? Like you're an expert in the craft. That's why a lot of like people who start finance startups, people working in finance at Wall Street for like 1 year, same thing with tech, same thing with music, same thing with all these things. So yeah, you do you know, like I said, exposure is a good thing. Whatever you're exposed to, you know best, and you can kind of turn your frustration.
The questions, we will have time for 2 more questions. Yeah. Oh, you had the same question. Anybody online has a question for Dustin?
Yeah.
I think we are good. Any other questions on anything from Dustin or
Crickets.